get into Angular project. So this is our Angular project. Why we want to go for Angular project? Why can't I do a simple folder with HTML and JavaScript?
Because it is one page application.
So we have to achieve dynamic feature. I cannot do everything only with HTML. So I have to communicate with server. Do we want to communicate with server?
No.
Of course, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And it should always be dynamic application. Whenever we are saying it should be dynamic way, please pay attention, please pass your work. So always dynamic application can be achieved by having a communication with server. And for all the purpose, I cannot have HTML and JS to communicate with server. I need an environment. So the one of our environment is Angular, and the other advantage of Angular is single page application. So we are going to build with single web page. On top of web page, we will be having components. So every time it has a communication with server, but it will not reload the entire page. It will reload only components. Can I have many components in one page?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. And we are going to use a powerful superset of superset of JS, which is TypeScript code. So all the predefined functionalities, so later version, everything is available under your Angular CLI. So whatever the functionalities you want to add, so you can go with simple command npm install. So as of now, we are using all the pre-built-in functionality in our project. So likewise, so we can also publish our library. We can also install. That is what we discussed on whole day. I'll come to this publishing. So before that, when we are in Angular project, everything is done with the help of components. Components are building block. So whenever the entry point of the application will be under SRC, under app, you will be finding your folder for each component. So I will be having component 1, 2, 3, 4. Apart from that, by default, you will be having your app component. So your index.html is calling app component. So by default, your index.html is calling root component. App root is nothing but your app component. It consists of 4 pages. So as of now, we are working only on HTML and CSS. We will be having chapters for accessing this behavioral test driven. And this is not new to you. You remember all our test case. And this is our style sheet. What type of styles we are going to use. The entire behavior functionalities will be there in your TypeScript. So TypeScript will be registered with the help of decorator at component. You should use your at component annotation in TypeScript to register. So since we have this template URL, this TypeScript class is having a communication with your HTML file. All your modules get registered, imported in your app module.ts. Whatever the component functionalities I'm using in my project, everything will be declared inside at ng module. And we are importing all our modules here. Here the components are declared and modules are imported. And the respective packages are imported. We will use this symbol. So point number 1, app root component and then app module.ts. Whenever if you are building, it's got built in and its package.json file gets updated. every time you can generate your component. So we started with component. So we started component with data binding. You remember? So I can bind my data from TypeScript file to HTML with the help of
Interpolation.
and the other way is property binding.
Property binding.
So EMP ID, EMP ID, EMP name, interpolation, EMP name are variables. Where I'm having the data will be binded in my HTML. So it can be a single data, or it can be an object data, or it can be a collection of data, array type. We handled everything on that day. So we used structural directive, which is ng for. Always structural directive will be prefixed with asterisk. This table, UL, LI are your HTML component. In HTML, I'm going to embed my TypeScript. So we started with simple data binding through interpolation and property binding. Later we binded an object type. So later we binded user defined model class and its respective data. So for a class, you need to create an instance. Two ways also possible. So later, so this is all static data. So later, whatever the data entered on my text box, that can be passed from here to there. One-way binding is possible with the help of interpolation and property binding. Two-way is possible with the help of ng model. You remember? So in order to use ng model, in your app module, you have to import your forms module. Here it is ng model. Here it is forms module. So why we want this ng model, and we will give new product.pid. I'll show you, wait, where I am. npx nggc my comp5. Please come along with me. For today's session, I created comp5. So go to HTML. Let me create input type is equal to text. Let me enter your name and name one, let it be. So whatever the name I'm entering, let me display here. In my app component, I'm not going to call comp1, I'm going to call comp5. Please pay attention. Okay, meanwhile, let me complete it. So let me go to comp5. From my TypeScript.
Ma'am,
yeah,
here. So after here you remove that data which was
because I want to build and I want to show the output, then I will add.
Okay, ma'am.
Because it throws an error. I don't have name in my TypeScript. So let me build, let me generate it, run the server. Then I will show you the changes. So enter your name. So if I want to bind, I will not get the output. So if I want to bind the data from TypeScript to my HTML, so we call it as from TypeScript to HTML, we call it as one-way binding. Guys, shall I continue? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, TS, you just added the component, right?
In TS?
TS, you just added one component.
I will add.
Can you open the TS file then?
Let us use two-way binding. In what I want to do? I want to.
Yeah, ma'am. I was just seeing this. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. So let me give name one. Name one. As of now, let it be of any type. So if I want to do a two-way binding from HTML to TypeScript, I told you to use
ng model
and give the name, property name. Enter name. Can you see? This is two-way binding. So enter your name. Yeah. Richa. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
So whatever I'm entering on my HTML, it's going to my TypeScript. From there, it is coming back. Two-way binding. Two-way binding can be achieved with the help of ng model. Shall I continue? And then I have introduced the concept of parent to child. So one component can call another component and you can pass. In order to pass from parent to child, you will be using your property binding. So you will use the square bracket and you will bind whatever the property you want to send from parent to child. If you send minimum length and maximum length from component 3 to component 4, because in component 3 we are calling component 4, it is child. So in child, you will be calling minimum and maximum with the help of input bound. Same thing from component 4, if you want to send anything to your component 3, where it called, so then you will use event emitter. So event emitter, emit method we will call and we will pass the message. And that you can capture with the help of event binding. You will not use square bracket, we will use square parenthesis. You will call in an appropriate method. And whatever the functionality you want to do, either display or to proceed with any other operation, you can handle it. Shall I continue? And then shall I? One-way binding, two-way binding, after that parent to child.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and then we went for publish. So publishing on
PM.
So publishing our libraries on the global portal npmjs.com. So why we want to publish? So whenever I'm installing any module, everything is from your Angular core, Angular forms, Angular packages. So likewise, in order to publish, I cannot able to publish my regular project. Which one you can able to publish? You can publish only your library component. So you remember I went to a case study yesterday on the same sprint. So as per your sprint, they want you to create a child library component. So this child library component I will create, then I will publish. So any number of parent component can be called this. So let's assume you remember, if I am an application, Amazon application, I want to do this password validator. Let's assume your password validator is your child library component which you published. So likewise, so there is an NIT application. They also wants to do an password validator. And we have some, what is this? Ticket booking application where they also wants to do a password validator. So all the application are parent. All the application will install what?
Child library.
Child library, which you have already published. Apart from that, according to Amazon, they want minimum of 6 character, maximum of 12. Here they want minimum 0 to maximum 12. Here they want minimum 4 to maximum 16. So every application they want different minimum and maximum requirement of password entry. So this minimum and maximum needs to be sent from parent to child. So that you can achieve with the help of input bound property. So that is why in your child library from parent, when you are calling this password validator after installing npm install password validator, so you will be calling that selector along with by passing maximum and minimum. Example, so let's assume I am in Amazon. I will be calling library hyphen password hyphen validator. This is my selector name. This is my selector name. If I am in Amazon app, I will be calling this in my respective password component. I will pass square bracket minimum is equal to 6. Maximum is equal to 12. If I am in NIT application, I will install, then I will call my child by passing 12. So when you are calling in your Amazon application, minimum and maximum will be passed as 12 and your child will respond according to that. It will check, it will validate. There were only 3 messages. Valid, it's empty and it is not within the range. Will it be reusable? Child library component, password validator, will it be reusable?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
But I am reusing it based on the minimum and maximum provided by my parent component. That is what they want you to try in that sprint. It's a simple sprint. You can return only 3 messages. Those 3 messages are, one is for empty. Your password is empty. So password is too big. Password is too small. Whether these 3 messages is applicable for all the 3 parent password validator. Only one text box I'm talking.
Can you repeat?
I will repeat again. I'll repeat entire things again. So after our input output data passing from parent to child, we get into the topic of publishing. So publish, you can publish only library components. So when you generate a library, what will be created? So in your project, you will be using ng generate library. Let's assume you generated password validator. What folder will be created?
Dist.
No,
This folder.
no.
Passport version.
Library folder.
password validator.
If I create
Library
password,
Folder.
very good.
And ESMFS.
If you want, I'll show. I have good RAM. I can show you. See, I'll minimize everything. I'll use my July 19 demo one. Have to close. Yeah. So do I have a library component in my project?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Have a clear idea on it. So whether you are gonna to generate a library or we are gonna to access, don't confuse in it. If your July 19 demo is a project where you are gonna to access, don't touch. Don't disturb this. So if you have an actual project where you are going to access other libraries, have it. So whereas you are gonna to create project and create libraries and you are gonna to generate it, publish it. Be careful on it. Don't confuse between the place where you are generating and where you are accessing. So time being, I'm using my July 19 demo one, this project to generate my library also. Same library, I can use it here globally. So what is the syntax? See, do I have projects folder?
No, ma'am.
No,
ma'am.
ma'am. Project folder will not be there. Dist will be created when you build. So I am in July 19 demo. So npx ng generate library. So password validator library, or this lib is also there. Password validator July 21. Please look into my folder. Source is a folder where you will be having all your project components, starting from app component to other component. But when you generate a library, have you noticed what it got created? Projects folder. It will additionally create project folder, and my library name is password-valid-July 21. This will be created, and inside you will be finding one default library component. Don't confuse between this library component and your regular library component. I cannot reuse this, but I can publish and I can reuse my password valid. Now is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Here, projects folder will be created. And what can I generate one more library? Can I generate one more library?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
npx ng generate library. So let me generate for email validator. Email validator of July 21. It will create folder, that's all. Can you see the difference?
It will get
create
added in the same folder.
Project folder, and it will create two folders. One is email validator, the other one is password validator. So what I said is you go to the appropriate validator and you will be finding source, you will be having library with components. So you will be having only TypeScript and you don't have HTML. So either you can have your HTML here. To avoid confusion, you create a separate file and you have template URL. So
Okay.
as of now, I have two validators. So this email validator, if I publish, you all can reuse. I need to complete my HTML and TypeScript accordingly. So when I create project, when it create library, so when I go for this comment, it will generate projects folder. and you will be having that library. And you will be completing it, and what we will do, so we will go to appropriate library. If it is email validator, you will go to the prompt. Here also lot of confusion. So you right click, we have an option. Have you noticed? If I want to build the email validator, you right click email validator, open in integrator terminal and go for build. So I am gonna to build my email validator library component. Whenever if you build, dist folder will be created. Have you noticed 2 folders? Why
Yes,
2
ma'am.
folders?
Because we need 2 libraries.
Because I have built already my project July 19. Now I builded email ID. What will happen if I build my password valid?
And there will be three folders.
npx ng build. So now I am building my password valid. So after completing the appropriate component.ts file or HTML file, you build that, you go to the terminal and locate the prompt where it is locating this path. So if you notice here in dist folder, now you have 3 folders. Email validator, July and password. If I want to publish password, where I want to open a terminal, you select password validator and you have to open the terminal here. So now if I publish, if I give my login, if I publish, what will be published on my portal?
And password July.
Only password
Valid July.
Hmm.
So I have published, so I can reuse password valid July. Got it? So every time you are confusing between dist folder and source folder, project source folder. So don't get confused. You go to Visual Studio, right click and open the terminal. So after completing the coding in validator library, you right click, open in your terminal and build your respective library. To publish, you go to dist folder to appropriate library. Then you publish it. You give before that you should give npm login so that your login will be authenticated in this project. So then if you publish, the respective library alone will be published. So that can be reused in all other projects. Even everyone can reuse. So whenever if you are publishing, you will be getting your package.json. You remember this name? So this name only it got published. Even if you want, you can give a unique name also to avoid the confusion. Okay, so let me quickly discuss on sprint. So yeah, you leave this Amazon, all other thing.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, while republishing same library, can we just change version and republish?
Do it. Or you give different name.
Okay.
It is accepting. So for sprint, listen. So for sprint, so you create Angular project. Under source, under app component, it's gonna to act like a parent component. So apart from that, you need to generate library. You will be getting your library component under projects, library. Assume that you created password validator. This is gonna to act like a child component. Will you able to pass input bound property from parent to child, which is your maximum and minimum?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And where you will have your text box, you will be having your text box in child. In child only, you will have enter password. You will be having a text box. Here you will get input on maximum and minimum, and you will validate and you will emit error message. That error message where you will capture.
And then parent
Parents.
This is what they want us to do in sprint 1. So once if you have published, anyone can able to do this, as I said, by changing this minimum and maximum. But in our sprint, you can do it within one project. One project, you have your app component. Inside the same project, you generate library and complete this password value. Only one text box. Input will be giving maximum and minimum from parent after validating either of the 3 message. So password is empty. So password is too short. Password is too long. Only 3 message. So any of the 3 message will be emit to your parent as an error message. Complete the sprint. I will give you a quick intro on the next topic. Shall I? You decide. Or if we,
Yes, ma'am.
or if you want me to start fresh on tomorrow morning, that is
and
also.
can we start
Tomorrow
fresh
morning will be
morning?
fine.
So, but before that, I have shared lot of what is that links on that. Just go to Angular component. Ensure that you are go through what are all the modules there in Angular component. Understand your Angular. Whatever the link shared. So just go through this once. And I know this is new. Day by day, you will be familiar. See here, whenever if you get into your component, see, you can use this up and down, you minimize, maximize. See here, your Angular core, Visual Studio core, whenever if you build, this will be created. This is for node module, projects for library, source is a default package. Under app, you should aware of this HTML file, TypeScript file. We didn't touch on this CSS and spec. App module. Familiar with that. I want you to read on this app module too. So what is modules? So we will discuss. We have 20 minutes. I'm not going to start a new topic. We will read together. So modules. What is modules? Libraries. The word is not new to us. Namespace, modules, directives. What is that? Header files. Everything will go in the same place. Angular applications are modular, and Angular has its own modularity system. It has its own functionality. Those are all called as NG module. NG module or containers consist of cohesive block of code dedicated to application domain workflow, our project. They contain, our NG module only contains what? Components, service providers. We will discuss on services. All will be defined under NG module. All the core functionalities are available here and we will be importing, and it's already been exported. Please look into second paragraph. Every Angular application has at least one NG class, which is nothing but our root module, which is nothing but our app module, which is located in app module.ts. So this is gonna to act like my module file, where all the functionality, whatever I'm doing in my project. It's a kind of your POM file. It's a kind of your configuration file. If I do a dot in my project, it will be reflected here. I need to import ng module from core. So browser module, routing module, because we enabled routing installed. We will have a separate session on routing and whatever the components I'm importing. Even if I import any other external component. So it consists of declaration. It's an array. These many components are declared. These many modules are imported. So my application, my project will have module file, which is app module.ts. So everything will be defined with the annotation at ng module. Have you noticed this first line, 14th line? How we have at component. Likewise, we have at ng module. It's a decorator that marks the class as an ng. It supports all the configuration metadata information of my project. It consists of declaration, import, export, all the components, directives, pipes that belongs to ng module. Exports, imports, providers, bootstrap. So this is a simple ng. Assume like I have root component, A component, A2 component, and A3. Here I have B1, B2, B3. If you noticed, can I have 3 components in one module? I will show you. We came across on this. So I have 5 components plus app component, 6 components totally. But how many app module file is there? Only one. Here it's a place where it registers all other components inside my application. All right. ng module describes how the application parts fit together. Every application has at least one Angular module root and all the information is presented in app module.ts. All right, wait. So ng module. No, this I will take you separately. We have topics. Just I want to take you on forms module. That one more topic we discussed is two-way binding, ng model. If I want to model from my domain data, bind it to my form control element, we will use ng model and it belongs to at Angular forms. Implements the set of directive and provide a communication between DOM element when building the form to capture user input. Especially whenever if you are giving a text box, checkbox, radio button, and we are capturing a user input. So at the time, we need this at Angular /forms. Under this, we have one forms module. Under forms module, we have so many directives. One of the directives we are using under forms module is ng model. Apart from that, we have many more. Components are the most basic UI building block of Angular application. So always Angular application consists of tree of Angular components. Please look into second point. Angular components are subset of directives. Still, we haven't touched on directives. Tomorrow morning, we will discuss on directives. So whatever the functionality I am achieving in my Angular, it can be achieved with the help of directives. Directives are prefixed with @ symbol. One of the directive we are using in our project is components. I'm sure this @ component is familiar to you all. Component is one directive. So if I want to manage and maintain my DOM, my UI, I am in front-end module. In my user interface, if I want to maintain my user interface through HTML, it is possible only with the help of my directives. So I can design, I can change, I can apply theme, I can do any dynamic feature on my HTML DOM element only with the help of directives. So as of now, we came across only on component directive to do all these data binding part. Components. All right. We all will use them. Many more directives are there. Under that, we used only few. So if I want to share the data between child and parent, between components or directive, we will use this input and output decorators. We should know what is meant by input and what is output. Decorator that marks the class field as an input supplies some metadata information. And whenever if you are making changes, it automatically updates the data property wherever if you are referring. So we can have libraries in Angular. Listen carefully. All your questions answer is there in this paragraph. Many application needs to solve same general problem. Mostly presenting unified user interface, presenting the data, allowing the data. So instead of every developer create, say in different application every time, you can go for any general solution for particular domain that can be reused in different application. So one will be created and will be reused in different application. Such solution can be built on Angular with the help of libraries and will be published on NPM package. So Angular library, you will create, but it cannot run on its own. You have to import and you will be used in another application. So there were predefined libraries. Apart from that, you can create your own libraries. So these are the steps we followed. So you need to create your workspace. You go to inside your workspace, you generate your library. See, most of you are missing this naming convention. Can you see this orange color box, naming your library? Avoid using the name that is prefixed with what? ng hyphen. Why we should not use ng hyphen? The answer is there continuously. Because ng is something like reserved. All the built-in Angular libraries are available with the name ng hyphen. So don't use ng hyphen. So other than ng hyphen, give a meaningful library name. And you have to publish it. So once if you use ng generate library, what folder will be created? Projects folder. Complete it, publish it. So you will be building, can you see? You will be building your library. Now we need to go to change directive to where? So inside your library, you will build. You come outside. See here, change directive to dist folder my library. And you need to publish it. So once if you publish it, it will be published and you can use. So just to avoid confusion, always Angular library should be listed with @Angular/. So @Angular/core, @Angular/forms, modules, so many. So you can give your own name also. In your package.json, you can give @ that's what I tried, Adesh Sharma / his library. You can import it, the module, and you can use. So my kind suggestion to you all, so whenever one topic is covered, not even an official site, so at least go through some theory concept and understand and be familiar with it, so that there will not be further confusion. So if you want, you can go through. So if you have time, just look on to the topic directives. So we have directives, we have components. We just introduced on components. Component is also a subset of directives. So we have 3 directives. One is structural directive. The other one is component directive. The other one is attribute directive. So we have 3 directives. We already introduced on component. We will work on the structural and attribute tomorrow. I'm assuming like except Priya. So except Priya, all of you have published a library.
Done, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Priya, it's working?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then. I thought it's a unique error and I need to resolve. If it is working fine.
No, it's resolved, ma'am.
Okay. That means everyone needs to publish your own library and try to use that library in some other application by installing.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what. So we will be continuing with directives tomorrow. And then let's see. We have a lot more are there in Angular. So be familiar with the concepts which we came across. That's it. And you practice with simple demo. And be familiar with the concept. So then you can apply to your sprint, you will be familiar. All right, I'm done with the day. Still facing problem, you want to connect, you can message me. We will utilize this Saturday for one-to-one connect. So I'm done with the day. If you want, we can close some 2-3 minutes earlier today.